do you have that entrepreneurial mindset that if I can see how a company is built from scratch to, I will be able to replicate that. So again, right? And I would tell people, be true to yourself. Identify who you are, what you want out of life, out of your career, so that you don't be an impediment to a team. And I remember this was years ago. I remember talking to a colleague and was like, I would have to pray about it. And the person looked at me like, hey, those of you that not like, as though it was something like, I'm not an honest in the business. What's my, if he fails, fine. If he doesn't, right? And that's why I said it earlier that when you take a business as though it's yours, the stars line up for you somehow, right? So I just believe that if you do a business in a nutshell, if you do a business or if you do your work as though it is yours, whatever that means for you, that is, if this was my business, there are times when, and it's not just about the time that you put into the business. I'll try to personalize it. In my early days, right, there are times when I've been in the office till 11, because we had to deliver on a task, right? Um, and then someone could say that, well, that's not a big deal if people work hard. Um, but then again, when there are issues, the way you also resolve it. And one thing people do is when you are part of a team and you kind of segregate yourself that, oh, it's them, is their business, or the kind of decisions that they take and all of that. If you take a we approach early on as an employee, a we, right, come up to say, oh, I don't think maybe we should do it this way and all of that. They pick those things. I'll just say that do the work as though it's where to be yours. The way you would run it as though it's yours. I think that's that in a nutshell. That's that because I can't. They would have to. They would have to tell
So you, yeah, I understand. I
exactly.
understand. I
I can, but
understand.
I will just say okay. Maybe the things I did from a skill perspective, how I approach my
Mm,
work, ownership, and
mm,
all that.
mm.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for sharing that. I found that quite helpful, to be honest. Right? I know that it looks like you're trying to pick one, two, three, four things, like, but I think the whole ownership thing kind of rings true and kind of comes through like the main thing because I've seen a lot of skillful people, super skillful people who are not very loyal or who are very, who are dubious, who you can't trust with things because they don't have problem with, they are so skillful they can play with numbers, right? If you know creative accounting and all the works around that, okay, they are skillful, right? But there is something about owning things and being loyal, right, and being true to the business, and I think that kind of comes true, right? So I hope people, pick that and they're able to, take one or two learning from that.
And let me just say something real quick. A thought just came to my mind. Right. One easy way to also identify or spot this, because I assume that there would also be senior people here who are trying to identify potential partners from their team members, right? Does this person does this person see their work, right, as an extension of their identity, or is their job just part of their career? When you see what you do as an extension of your identity, the brand, you're very mindful of the brand of the business. You're very, because you now see it as it is part of me. It's not just, oh, my career, it's my work. And it plays out a lot on, you are able to pick it from how they approach issues, from how they solve problems. That way you can easily, okay, this person, how they solve problems in the organization, how they manage, right? If you're very, even how you manage people, if you manage your team members in a way that you don't want people to walk away and have this perception as about the business, because you know that what you're doing, you are creating an identity for the business. If you think from the business mindset and not necessarily, this is just my career, this is just work, it's a lot to ask for, and it's not out of place for someone, and I'll be very honest, for someone to say, no, that's my career, once I get home, work is work. And there are times when I've been asked to join calls at short notice on a Saturday because something happened somewhere and we needed to do a quick, right? And you can tell between someone who would join it, who is joining willfully and sees that, oh, this is our issue that needs to be addressed, versus, okay, you can spot that. Ultimately, I hope it's easier when you're doing a work that you find impactful, and not everybody has that kind of job, right? Or have that kind of career. So
I think
just
that I think
yeah.
that's a very good point you just made. Like you that you just close to it, right? Finding that alignment between what is important to you and what the business is trying to deliver, right? And I remember back in my, one of my old organizations I work with, they used to ask a question around, is the job, is your role helping you to do something meaningful, right? Are you doing a meaningful job, or is just a waste of your time? You're just doing it because you have no choice, you have to feed the family and all of that. And if that meaning element is not there, maybe it's something that is up for conversation, right? Because after a while you'll basically burn out, or you just lose interest and you lose start looking for something else. And I think that's a very good point you just raised, right? So thanks a lot for sharing that. Now, I quickly want to step back a little bit, right? Again, in that transition, I'm particularly interested in that middle, that not always very tidy middle, the messy middle, right? When I speak with entrepreneurs, right, they are always, motivated, driven, and all of that. And at times, the vision they see, kind of make them oblivious of the risk of failure, right? If this thing fails, right, what happens to me? What happens to my career? What happens to my family? What happens to my finance? What happens to all this kind of stuff, right? For you, was that a similar experience? Was that the kind of experience you had, right, going into these? Was it like, did you have that fear of, hey, this is great, I think I can do this, I don't think this will fail? Or did you have that, trepidation of, hey, what if this doesn't work out? What if, did you have doubts, right? Did you have concerns? How did you navigate the emotions around all of those kind of things, like moving from, sure, salary to a point where you are now the CEO, and to a large extent things depends on how much of business you're able to bring in. And then even much more important is, now if it's just about you or your partner, it's a different thing. But now you're responsible for people's salaries, right, and people's earnings. And what if, do you understand, money doesn't come in? What do I tell these people? How did you manage those kind of, if you had those fears, did you have them? Number one, if you had them, how did you navigate that? And if you didn't have them, what was it like for you emotionally making that transition?
Oh, thank you very much. I think the decision, it's a good question, and I'll answer it honestly. I would say that in the early days, I had uh, the initial fears, but it didn't take me so long to overcome. I believe that by the time I was having the conversation, I had I had a level of confidence that I wanted to do it. But to even walk up to my then manager, right, my colleague who is co-owner of the business at the Kurama level before, not the CEO now, this Kamal Palan, right? I had put in a lot of, and I'm grateful for family members. who helped me in taking that decision, right? The fears were there. But what eventually helped me to cross the line was I think I have a quite an attractive resume. If it fails, I'll go back to the market. And if I go back to the market, nobody will blame me for trying. If anything, that's knowledge, right, would even be valuable at that level. But how did I even get there, right? I had looked at, I had played out different scenarios. So what I just told you is the very worst scenario. The decision was easy because of my situation. It meant that from day one, I had a client, which is very unusual for a lot of people. And not just a client, I had a big client. The only difference was that I need to go and get more businesses because I was no longer, I and my team members, because I was acquiring team members because the that entire division was spun off, right? So I actually did some things. I didn't it wasn't a decision that I took. I did some things, right, in terms of okay, adjustments. Okay, they're a big employer, they are paying this. Can we actually pay this, right? One very easy decision, for instance, very easy decision was that they offer an international health insurance plan, irrespective of that gives you access to private health care everywhere in the world except the US. And I just knew that I'm sorry, I can't do that as a business, right? So identifying that, okay, this is the reality, this is the scenario one, scenario two, scenario three, right? It helps. And that's why, again, you can't take away the place of experience, right? Having to work for some time. Because what it also means is I also have financial leverage, right? Because if it doesn't work, it doesn't mean that, or if it does, or if there are challenges along the way from a business pipeline perspective, right? Do we have can we still at least cover the team's salary? Can we still do that, right? Can we? I believe my business partner and I, we can still live for, a couple of, you know, yeah, without it. So it helped. It helped the decision making process, right? So, and then you've been doing this for a while as well. So the question then is, so you had it was also a transition. There's a transition, right? So it made it because of the unique nature, right? It helps the decision, but it's not without its challenges and that fear as well. But that was what helped me to.
I mean, thanks a lot, Moji, for sharing that. As they say, to whom much is given, much is expected, right? And for you, you didn't start entrepreneurship like every other person, right? So to an extent, there is like a higher level of expectation from society or from wherever that you can only build on this, right? So you get what I mean. So for you, the realities are a bit different. Yes, maybe you had a little bit of leverage, but the expectations are also higher because you came in with some assets, quite all right, but you also came in with some liabilities and you had to make some tough calls, right? My next question is around the tough calls. So you had to kind of streamline some of the things that you probably offer as an employer of choice, right? And all of those kind of stuff. Probably look into the benefits and the compensations and the career opportunities that are available to people, and all of that had to be relooked technically. And I'm wondering um, if there were fallout as a result of that, right? Did you lose people, and how did you tell me about it?
No, very great question, right? Because what it meant was you were asking people to leave a brand, a big brand, to a company, Salt Advisory, that was formed when? Last year, yesterday, to work for who? Moji Fashola versus me working for Wale Adeosun and his business partners who are in their 50s and 60s, right? Corporate America, if you Google their name and all of that, there was that resistance. And we found that to be very okay because we wanted to work with people who believe in the vision and the mission. If you truly believe in what we are building, right, you'll be able to go the extra mile. The way you will do the work is going to be different. So the truth of the matter is that was totally fine. We didn't want to work with anyone who saw us as, oh, these small people, or I'll prefer to have this resume on my brand. Those questions were there, even for the people who eventually moved. Not directly in that way, but just helping to there were questions. Oh, for instance, oh, my annual leave, what does this mean for me? What we address. So as much as possible, we try to ensure that everything we were doing, in the case of, I think we tried for the employees who were moving, we tried to ensure that their benefits stayed the same to the extent possible. It's just new hires that are coming in. But in terms of um um employee benefits, for instance, leave days, for the number of things, how we work, how we do business, we needed to maintain that because it's not fair on people for you to just come and then they get lower. But of course, there were certain things that we tried. I don't want to share too much information. There were just certain things that we needed to make adjustments on, which weren't so. It wasn't a big deal, really, if you truly believed in you what we're trying to build. And again, it's a function of what your goals are, right? Because if you're someone who sees, if you're entrepreneurial, right, where you see yourself as, okay, you know what, this thing could potentially be big. And if I am part of the team who built this, then, and if you notice, if you can see that these people have this backing, they started out this way, they are very likely to explode. Right? So do I want to be part of it now? If it fails and I can build with them, grow, and be the next set of leaders, or I'm not really in this. I'm an employer, I'm an employee. And so I want to work in a big corporate. I want to move from this, jump from this to this, another company. So it depends on, or do you have an entrepreneurial mindset that if I can see how a company is built from scratch to, I will be able to replicate that. So again, right? And I would tell people, be true to yourself. Identify who you are, what you want out of life, out of your career, so that you don't be an impediment to a team, right? You don't impact the chemistry of the team. So it was very okay. Yes, where we had, people, oh, very fine, all well and good, bye bye. And the people who were, oh, fantastic, right? And we're very grateful for the success that we have. We're able to pull um we're able to pull more or less very strong talents from even big organizations in different, right. It takes a lot at that level. you're just starting out. So you even finding young people who believe, who can see, and that's who can see the vision, who can see the long-term impact that I can leave a big name. I have someone on my team who left one of the top three law firms in Nigeria come and join us. It's about seeing the vision. Yes, it's about seeing the vision. So we're not doing badly from our ability to attract from a benefit and compensation, but also identifying people who, I mean, money points and all these unicorns. They didn't start off being that. You needed to have certain people who believe, because I'm sure they were able to pull people from big industries, big names. So it's just about chemistry, team chemistry, and and that is the best way to identify true people, the real guys who are committed to your vision. So
I have the right chemistry. Oh, come on, I am you.
ah,
I will move to the US now. Now.
no. We move to we operating for now. Our
I will show up, pam, like that. Now, thanks a lot, Mojo, for sharing that. And I know that there can be, pains, right, in when it has to do with people, right? Some of them can just people are just people, right? So don't let's get into all of the details. People can be people, and it can get quite painful. My next question is still, to an extent, I think is still around people. But before we do that, I want to so if you look at the business from when you started it, and I know that you have your like the business that you kind of transitioned with, right, which was good. Um and then Mastercard came on, Mastercard Foundation came on. Now, can you give us a rough number in terms of your client base now, and then maybe employees, and just a rough number, or a ballpark of some sort? So,
yeah, I don't think we have up to 15 clients. We don't have up
mm,
to 15 clients and we don't have up to 15 team members.
hmm.
But we service very quality clients,
That's a very
and our team members were very proud of the team that we have and the team we're building, where we
mm,
we have some of the best skilled,
people. Mm,
but the real, what we really pride ourselves in is not just the skill, but just people. It's an A team, people who do
mm,
things excellently and
mm.
believe that things should be done at a global standard.
Yeah, yeah. When you started saying that, I can see that you've delivered that pitch like several times. Like I can imagine you on a Monday morning, right? That this is who we are, this is how we operate. Like you've done it like him, and then when you were going to get into that, you basically just switch into that your CEO mode, and just basically just delivered it with the same passion, right? With the same, which is great anyway. I mean, not complaining, right? But it's good to see you, for that 1 minute where your CEO had. Now, I asked that question around, and thanks for sharing the stuff around, the number of clients. And again, I like the fact that you call out, it's not so much in the size of the, client base, right? We always want to grow our client base. That's good, but it's not in the size, it's not in the number, it's in the quality, right? And I'm sure that if I ask you to start double clicking into examples, you've given us one already, and if we continue to expand that, I'm sure people will be like, that's even that 15 is a lot, right? Because do you get what I mean? Because these names you're calling, right, to manage them, because their expectations will be high, they are, what their requirements will be up there, and all of that can be quite a handful. So thanks for sharing that.
Hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the podcast. We are super thankful for you taking that time and investing the time to learn. We hope that you find the story inspiring, and beyond that, that you've been able to articulate one or two things that you want to do differently in your own entrepreneurial journey. May I encourage you to please like, subscribe, comment, and please share the word within your own circle of influence, especially within those that you think are on the same entrepreneurial journey with you. May I also encourage you to please, beyond subscribing to our YouTube channel, follow us on our other social media platforms. That means a lot to us, and we can see that that helps us to track that we're making some progress and so making some impact. Thanks a lot once again for taking the time to watch, and to see you on the next episode.